this is Jason.
Hi, Jason. Can you hear us?
Oh, I can hear you just fine, thank you. How's everyone doing?
Very good, Jason. Thank you. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
Great.
Looks like we're still at least a couple members short.
Yes, that's correct. We have two commissioners here, Commissioner Hugoy, Commissioner Munzer, and we've heard from Commissioner Kevin. He indicated that he should be coming in. And we heard from Commissioner Roxanne Stevens. She said that she was going to be joining the Zoom.
Okay, excellent.
At least it works. It works, yeah. Yeah, any of those on that side? Yeah, just any of those, 1, 2, 3, 4 on that side over there. Perfect.
Yeah. Hi, Kevin.
That's what I was wondering. Once she's connected, we can start. Good to go. That's it.
Jason, can you hear us again?
Yes, I can. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Looks like Roxanne's muted.
Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order for Thursday, August 27th at 6:03. Verification of agenda posting.
Good evening. The agenda for the August 27th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting was posted on Friday, August 21st, 2020 at 1:57 p.m.
Thank you, Brian. And Mr. Huboy, do you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
By all means.
Can I ask for the roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Stevens.
Here.
Commissioner Commissioner Henderson.
Here, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Huboy.
Here.
Chairperson Munzer.
Here. Regarding the minutes for June 25th, can I have a motion for approval on the minutes?
I can't make the motion. I have to abstain. I was absent.
Did Kevin and Roxanne have a chance to review the minutes?
Yes, the minutes look okay to me.
Same here.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes for the June 25th, 2020 meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And one abstention.
Thank you, goodbye. Communication from the public on items not listed on the agenda. This is a time for anyone in the audience to speak on any of the items not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. When the Planning Commission calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and speak to the commission. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that the state law prohibits the Planning Commission from discussing or taking action on any of the items not on the agenda. Do we have any speaker cards for items not on the agenda?
I have nothing in person, but there's nothing on Zoom either. So nothing on Zoom, nothing in person.
Great, thank you, Brian. At this point, we'll move forward with the public hearings. Item number 1, site and architectural review number 2019-18.
Can you guys hear me okay with my mask on? Give it a shot. Okay. Thank you. So the applicant is requesting a site and architectural approval to demolish the existing 3,344 square foot restaurant building. This building is currently known as Jerry's or Hooligans. And they are looking to construct a new 2,200 square foot drive-through cafe with outdoor seating on a 32,422 square foot lot at 111 San Felipe, located east of San Felipe and north of Santa Ana Road in the North Gateway zoning district of the city of Hollister. The proposed drive-through cafe with outdoor seating will operate 7 days a week between the hours of 3:30 a.m. to midnight. There will be a single 12-foot drive-through lane that will have the ability to queue up to 10 vehicles in total. This exceeds the requirement of sufficient stacking area to accommodate a minimum of 6 vehicles per section 17.22.090. The business will typically have 4 employees staffed at the restaurant during regular operational hours and 6 to 7 staff members during peak business hours. The primary driveway access to the site will be off of San Felipe. 2 cross-access driveways on the southern boundary of the property will be shared with Ranch Gas and Food. This parcel is further identified as 051-020-023. One driveway will be located to the southern corner of the subject parcel, and the second driveway will be towards the center of the subject parcel on the northeast corner of APN 051-020-023. The applicant has provided shared access driveways to the east and to the north to accommodate for future connections between the adjacent properties. Condition 84 has been drafted to require that the applicant temporarily install bollards at these access points. The bollards will remain in place until such a time that the adjacent neighboring property develops. Upon the neighboring properties' entitlements, the bollards will be removed. Per section 1718.060, fast food counter service requires 5 spaces or +1 space for every 3 seats in the dining area, or 1 space for each 100 gross square feet of the area, whichever is greater. The total square footage of the building is 2,200 square feet, which equates to 22 parking spaces. The applicant is proposing to install a total of 31 spaces, which meets and exceeds the on-site parking requirements. And for the bicycle parking, per table 17.18-1, off-street parking and bicycles required by the land use types of the Hollister Municipal Code. Fast food Counter Service requires that the applicant provide 5% of the required number of vehicle spaces as parking. The applicant is required to provide a total of 22 parking spaces. 5% of those spaces equates to 1.1. The applicant is required to provide a minimum of 1 parking space. They meet and exceed this by providing a bike parking loop. The rack will provide at least 2 spaces for bicycles. The elevations of the project. The main body of the building will be finished in 2 different types of siding. The lower half of the building will be finished in a thin brick veneer. The upper portion of the building is finished in a beige stucco. A black steel metal canopy separates the 2 finishes and will wrap around the building. The roof line will be finished with an aluminum paracap. The western elevation of the building will face San Felipe and is the side of the building where the drive-through pickup window will be located. Towards the center of the elevation will be a 22-foot tower which articulately defines the location of the pickup window. The tower will be finished in a carbon metal side paneling. An aluminum storefront window will be featured on the right side of the elevation. A channel letter sign will be placed above the window on the canopy. A 5-foot diameter tenant sign is proposed towards the top of the tower. Please note that all the elevations that you see, the applicant will have to get separate permits for each of the signs. The southern elevation on the building will face towards the main drive aisle / parking lot of the subject parcel. The lower portion of the building will have 2 aluminum storefront windows separated by a section of thin brick veneer. The main entrance to the building is articulated by a 20-foot tower, which will be finished in metal carbon side paneling. The entrance door will match the detailing of the surrounding storefront. Another 5-foot diameter tenant sign is proposed at the top of the tower. A black and white drive-through sign is proposed at the top left corner of the building's facade. The eastern elevation will have the same stucco finish, brick veneer facade, and metal canopy. There will also be an aluminum storefront window slightly offset from the left of the center of the elevation. Northern elevation of the building will face the drive-through lane. 1 beige colored man door will be located in the center of this elevation, and a black and white drive-through sign is proposed at the top right corner of the building. The landscaping consists of trees, shrubs, ornamental grasses, and ground cover. They're proposed throughout the perimeter of the site and shall be provided within the medians and end caps throughout the parking lot. The applicant is proposing to landscape 6,999 square feet, which is equivalent of 21.95% of the 422,000 square foot of the parcel. The Table 17.8-3 Commercial District Development Regulations, the applicant meets and exceeds the 5% landscape requirement. In addition, the proposed landscape also exceeds the shade requirement, which is also in section 17.8.030 G4, as the project exceeds the 50% requirement by providing at least 65 shade canopy within the next 5 years. And with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal, and make the following motion. 1, to adopt a resolution approving site and architectural review 2019-18 subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution. Are there any questions for staff? The applicants are also on the line if you have any questions for them as well.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chair. I have a couple of questions, and I just keep this as in terms of general questions for now. And the first question I have is the site circulation. I noticed that at the east, we have a cross-access driveway, which is currently now, that cross-access driveway, the eastern access is just a field, or it's just open space. And then also the one that is proposed on the north is currently, looks like a wooded area. So my question is, with the applicant and negotiating these drives that are through the adjacent parcels, how did that come about? Did he, are there going to be easements then? Because without a master plan, without showing how those adjacent sites will be developed, my question is, how would that work out in the future with future development on the adjacent sites?
Thank you. So we did do a traffic study to analyze that. It was important that there's connection, future connection. There is easements that are taken into account, as well as mentioned with the bollards, making sure there's those cross-access agreements at one point, or at such point where there's development on either of those sides. Not only will those be removed for the continuation to the north and to the east, I believe there's also, so if you look along the eastern line right now, there's what they're showing in their landscape is a boundary with some landscape, but as the future sites continue, there is the possibility of removing that, so we are widening the street and continuing that drive.
I'm just, my concern is that once those drives are established, then it kind of is a control point to site circulation in the adjoining sites. So I guess it goes without saying that there was some negotiation there with the adjacent property owners. Am I correct to say that?
And just to add to that, thanks, Amber. The general plan also requires that there is internal circulation, as Amber was indicating as well. So then the hope is that when Mr. Shahinian or if they end up working out with the potential developer and developing that site, then we would look at that site to make sure that there is that continual inner circulation between the properties as indicated by the general plan.
Thank you. And the other question I had is on the traffic report for the intersection of 4th and San Benito. The mitigation is to modify, quote, modify signal timing, unquote, to provide southbound right turn overlap phase. And it says the project will contribute, concerning this mitigation, will contribute its fair share of mitigation costs. So can you just clarify on how that contribution to mitigation costs will come about?
Yeah, it's just a fair share cost. They would pay their costs for that operational change. It's just a signal facing change. But that maybe
I just want to make sure that this is going to happen, that it's some kind of a written agreement or legal instrument that will take place in the future.
well, yeah, the conditions would control that.
I'm sorry, Danny, what's
The
that?
conditions of approval would control that.
Oh, okay. Condition of approval. That answers that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, Commissioner Hill.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, if we have no other questions for staff, let's go ahead and open this up for the public at 6:20. Do we have any speaker cards on this?
We have 2 Zoom speaker cards, and is there anyone in the audience that'd like to speak on this item? Doesn't look like anyone's in the audience that wants to speak, but we do have Zoom.
I do have a question for the applicant or the applicant's representative. Is that person available? My question is, on the site plan, it looks like there's a floor plan of sorts. My question is how the applicant plans on cooling the building. Is there a mechanical room? I don't see a mechanical room indicated on the floor plan.
We do have Mark Ingstrom, who's the applicant, and I believe your question was directed towards him. If it's a desire of the commission, we can unmute him so he can speak.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Very well. Mark, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, yes. First off, I'd like to, this is Mark Ingstrom. I'm the Mark Ingstrom Properties, the applicant here, and would like to at least thank staff working with us over the course of the last year to help navigate through this process. Cameron, I wasn't able to hear the question.
My question is, Mr. Ingstrom, is how are you planning on cooling the building? And the reason I'm asking that is that if that's not addressed at an early stage, and the design, sometimes the units go up on the roof, and if that is to take place, then that equipment would need to be screened.
We do have our project architect, the building analyst and his team online, as well as Representative from Bucks, Amber Reed, and I will defer the design question to building analyst and his team. We should be able to clear that. Bill?
Does Ingram team need to be unmuted?
Well, it's my understanding that the mechanical units are on the roof, they're package units, and the parapet hides those so that they're not visible from the street.
We do have Amber Reed, as Mr. Ingstrom indicated, hoping to speak. If the commission is okay with that, we could unmute Amber. Thank you. Amber Reed, can you hear me?
I can, thank you. And
Thank you.
commissioners, thank you for the time this evening. I can confirm what Mark just shared. Typically, the HVAC units will be on the roof, and my understanding is this building has screening of the units.
Okay. It looks like on the elevations you have kind of a square rectangular parapet wall. Is that, you're going to be placing the units behind the parapet? Is that the plan? Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
They'll be inside a well.
Okay, it wasn't clear to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if we don't focus in on these issues, like how the buildings are going to be cooled, and I drive by and I see equipment on the roof without roof screens, and I think that, we're remiss not to get that clarification. I appreciate it.
There were two conditions that I would like to talk about if we can. Condition number 25, which was from the fire marshal, I think inadvertently contemplated that we would be using the existing building and that the sprinkler system would be modified to accommodate that. I think I would just clarify that this is the building, that building will be demoed, that the building is small enough where fire sprinklers are not necessary, and if we could modify the condition that we submit plans that are acceptable to the fire department, that it actually talks for fitting the new, or the building.
What condition number is that?
That one is 72, and then I do want to talk about number 25, but if you want to take a look at that first.
And hi, this is Amber from Starbucks again. To touch on what Mark just mentioned with the fire sprinklers, our understanding right now is per code, our building is small enough that code doesn't require it to be sprinklered as a new structure.
Sorry, Abraham is reviewing with our fire chiefs in the back right now over the condition.
Hi, this is Abraham. Due to the nature of the building being a new building or a rebuild and it being commercial and being over 500 square feet in size, in this case 2,200 square feet, it would be required, fire sprinklers would be required. Yeah.
May I ask if we can leave the recommendation referencing code, because we were looking at something different earlier, and we just want, we're not asking to be anything other than code. Let's put that out there. But we want the ability to just follow up on it.
And that would be to the satisfaction of the fire department.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is Abraham again, and confirming with the chief, Chief Bedoya, if we can, we would be okay in adding as required by the fire department to the condition.
And the second condition, which was new to us, is condition number 25 that talks about the West Street driveway and the right in and right out only. We had engaged the traffic engineer, Kimberly Warren, the city's consultant, and this is the first that we have seen this. And so we haven't had an opportunity to address this with our traffic engineers. And what we would like to have, and the reason it's a concern of ours is that at the intersection of San Felipe and Santa Ana, there's no U-turns allowed there, so we don't have a way to make a U-turn. And then we would like to have the condition written such that obviously it would be to the satisfaction of the city engineer, but if we can come up with an acceptable alternative, right now the way it's currently written is that we would need to come back to the planning commission even if the city engineer agreed with our modifications, but we would like somehow to modify it so that if you know, we come to a resolution that the traffic engineer and the city engineer is acceptable to them, that we would be able to do that. That could create some either kind of U-turn or left turn into the site.
And checking with the city engineer staff would be okay, and working with the applicant on coming with a solution to that or an alternative.
Yeah, but Abraham, if you could add that the city has sole discretion at the final determination.
Correct. The city engineer just indicated that the city shall have sole discretion as the determination of the outcome of that plan.
Great, thank you. Any other input from the applicant on this item?
I'm sorry, Abraham, was that a question to me? I didn't understand everything that you had said.
I was just asking if there was any other input from the applicants in regards to the conditions.
Our request is some flexibility to the satisfaction of the city's traffic engineer and the city engineer.
Great, thank you.
Other
Is it,
than that, all of the other conditions were acceptable to us. And would like to maybe touch briefly on, the reciprocal ingress and egress with the adjoining property owner. We've been meeting with the property owner to the east and west, north and east. And they're in agreement with our current layout. They're uncertain what the development of their property is going to entail, and so we tried to create as much flexibility as we could. As Amber had mentioned, we do have a lot more flexibility going on that timeline because we needed that 5-foot planter barrier that would runs north and south that could create almost a major thoroughfare there if we wanted to take it out. But we do have a lot of flexibility in how we can integrate the adjoining property into the site later.
great, thank you, Mark.
We have Lee Shahinian on the Zoom as well.
I'm sorry, who else is joining us?
Lee Shahinian.
Great, thank you.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'm the managing owner of the adjacent properties that have been referred to this evening. To the, it's 2 parcels, both to the north and the east. It's all the empty land there in that block. And we have some concerns about the entrances onto our property and the easements which would accompany those. We have been, as Mark Enstrom noted, we've been in discussions with Mark and his development team, and had some discussions with the city. We obviously this time do not know what the future developers of our property would want to do. The property is currently on the market. Actually, Rudy Silverberg is representing it. Silverberg and Engstrom recommended that we have legal review, or we did by common agreement, and that is in process actually. So nothing has been decided about those easements. We've requested certain information, preliminary title report, and other information which would help. So we've gotten some of it from Mark, but we're lacking much of it still. And we've been promised that information, but it's not yet appeared. And then Harry Price, our real estate attorney, has authorization to review that material and make some recommendations. The questions that the planning commissioner raised are the same ones we have. What are the future implications for our property? For example, while Mark says there's flexibility, the sites of those 2 entrances are pretty well fixed because of the drive-through nature, which is great, but that can't be easily altered. So that is where those 2 entrances will be. Whether those would be appropriate entrances for future development we can't say at this point, obviously. One of our concerns is if it was not compatible with a future development, would we be able to set aside those easements for entrance and exit? And would the city approve setting them aside? If we did wish to set them aside, would the city say, well, we're sorry, but we did give you easements. The entrance gave you easements. You decided not to take them. That's going to cut down on the easements we can give you elsewhere. We can't just give you easements anywhere you want. We're trying to reduce the number of curb cuts. And so if you want more entrances on San Felipe, we might give you 1, but that's going to be a tough call. And as far as our property goes all the way back to Sally, it goes over to Maple, it goes over to Santa Ana, and we're obviously going to want multiple entrances. These might be great, they might be perfect. People might love to be able to access Starbucks easily, and it might work both ways, in and out. But it's unknown at this point, and again, we share the planning commissioner's concerns about what implications that has for our property in the future, and that has not by any means and decided.
Great, thank you for joining us, Mr. Lee. Is there any other?
Yes, I'm here.
Was there any other speakers?
That's all.
No, but I would like some, well, let me put it this way. I don't know what the implications are, but I would be reluctant to see this approved as is without getting some feedback back from the city in terms of what are the implications. If this is approved, where those easements would be, if we can't use them in the future, can we, Mark Angstrom is fine with that. He says, Lee, we'll close them off if you can't use them. Is the city okay with that, number one? And number two, is that going to impact our future application for easements?
Mr. Shahinian, thanks for taking the call. As your project progresses forward to coming to the city for review, we're going to do a full-scale analysis of how your site accesses San Felipe Road. And in a perfect world, we wouldn't want people to go through Starbucks to get to your property. We would want to make sure that your property is safe for the residents or the people that are going to be in that property, emergency services. And so, Starbucks is at the table here, and we need to accommodate how to access that property. I think we've gone above and beyond to make sure that other access points are on the property and into your property. And so, at this point, we're doing everything we can for Starbucks. When your property comes to the table, we'll make sure that you have those access points that you need to have your property be successful as well. So
Going back to my question, if those two easements, entrances on the east and on the north, are not compatible with our planned development or with our developer's planned development, is it okay to close those off? Will it be any question? We'll be able to close them out without any negative consequences for us?
that's the point of what we're doing. We're planning as best as we can, and so we have no clue what your use will be on your property. So we're taking the extra step to forecast how these easements might work with your property. But when you come to the table, when you submit a development application, Mr. Shahinian, we're going to be looking at how your property is accessed and having its own access points and making sure that your property is getting the benefit of the San Felipe Road, Santa Ana. So when your site is ready, we will be analyzing your property list just like we're analyzing Starbucks. Your property might be subdivided in the future where there might be one owner on the north end and one owner on the south end. And so if the south end goes first, eventually we're going to want to make sure those easements go into that north property. So this is just a planning exercise that we're doing to make sure that, the unknown is your property. So we're doing the best we can to accommodate Starbucks and potentially what your property may be.
Can I just get a yes or no answer to my question? If those easements are not compatible with our development plans, can they be abandoned without any negative consequence for us?
Brian, there is no negative consequence because it only goes to the property line. It does not extend onto his property.
So,
Yes or no?
so
Brian,
no,
yes
but
or no?
Mr. Shahinian, the easements don't go on your property. We're talking about access points on Starbucks. And we've talked to you about this multiple times leading up to this meeting.
Could I maybe the commissioners chime in here with either answers or questions regarding my situation?
Well, I guess I'm the one who brought it up. The concern that I have is that without a master plan of his property on what he's going to be doing with it is the reason I brought that up. And I think, Brian, you've answered it to a certain extent that the easement is not on his property, it's on the Starbucks side. I just was a little concerned about the flexibility in the future, because once that site is established and the construction is finished, then those access points will be pretty well defined. And my concern was pretty much as a process that was involved in planning this out. And I gather that you have, the planning staff has been in communication with Mr. Shaninian. And, just from a planning standpoint, my concern was how that was gonna work in the future.
Brian, may I address this? Commissioner Huboy, the property is an L-shaped property that surrounds the Starbucks site. There would be access points from San Felipe, there would be access points from Maple, and there would also be access points from East Street. What the future configuration of that site is totally unknown. This is the best possible outcome for the Starbucks property, to have access points to the property line. At the time Mr. Shahanian gets ready to develop, or if he sells the property 10 years in the future, they will come up with a layout and the city will address it at that time. If his property is incompatible with the access points that are selected, we would have to address it at that time. But there are several different points along those other streets that can access that site. I think that's what Brian is trying to say.
I agree. The question mark is that if those access points will not be compatible in the future with his future plans, with Mr. Shaninian is planning, I'm just wondering how would you carry that forward and in negotiating that with his future plans?
If they are not compatible, it will be dealt with at that time, because it does not extend onto his property.
Right.
It ends at the property line.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it truncates at that point, and it will be dealt with off of San Felipe, Maple, and East Street.
You've got really, I think, good site circulation, generally speaking, here. Of course, you've got your.
Commissioner Hui, can I chime in just really quick? This is Roxanne Stevens. I'm just want to say that I'm having some trouble hearing all the comments, and I'm not sure if it's because individuals have the mask on, or if you're not speaking right in to the speaker. But I'm having a little bit of trouble. I think I'm getting the gist of the discussion, and I just wanted to just throw a question out there. Is this one access point absolutely necessary? If this was approved without that, would that impact this whole project? It seems like there's a lot of different entrances and exits into the Starbucks property, or the plan for the Starbucks property. Would this one that faces north, is that absolutely necessary? Would that highly impact the project? Would it be detrimental to the project in any way if for some reason that was just closed off and not an entry or not an access point?
So this is Amber, and hopefully you can hear me. So the point of asking for these particular cross-access driveways is to be consistent with our general plan. We have to look for circulation throughout sites and neighboring adjacent sites. There was a lot of thought that was put into where these were going to be located. We worked with Starbucks to change around the plan several different times. And this is one of the best solutions we came up with. And again, as Brian and Danny have both brought up, right now those cross-access agreements only go up to the boundary line of the property. So,
Could I just chime in here, please? It was earlier stated that those easements have been approved by the adjacent property owners. That is not true. Now, I understand on the one hand, you've told us that the easements are there, and you've asked for our written approval of easements. At that point, you suggested we mutually agreed to have legal review, which is currently underway and not being held up on our side, but by a lack of documents to which we were promised. So anyway, we're happy to review it and so forth. The only thing is, I go back to the commissioner's concerns. What if, we may love those accesses. They may be perfect for our future development. So I don't want to preclude them. On the other hand, if they're incompatible with what people want to do in a major way, then we want the right to just say these don't work. I don't think it's a complicated request. I guess I'm just asking if that can be incorporated, that if we approve, and we have not approved these easements, they are calling them easements, not just access roads. They are asking us for written permission to have easements. So if they want us to give them easements, we want to know, can we unilaterally decide yes or no, we want those in the future? We want to know what the implications are of our signing an easement agreement.
Amber, is,
This, okay, sir, can I clarify, on behalf of our project? The access into the Shahemian property is not mission critical at all for the operation of Starbucks. We've just attempted to provide, pursuant to the North Gateway zoning district, interconnectivity with the adjoining property. But we have not asked for a reciprocal ingress and egress across their property.
What we're doing here is that we are taking the general plan, right? So the general plan tells us, guides us, gives us vision. What you're seeing on Starbucks is a vision of interconnectivity to other parcels. If we don't do that, then we're not abiding to the general plan of interconnectivity, and we're just creating a box. So we're going to create boxes rather than have a broader sense of planning to say in the future, we don't know what this is going to be, but let's plan this right now. That's what's going on.
great, thank you.
And Mark, Brian, we're fine with that, but we want to have control over whether those are activated easements or not in terms of entrance and egress from our property.
Brian,
And it sounds like Mark is fine with that too. He doesn't think they're mission critical. If we decide not to use them in the future, he's okay. If we decide we do want them, that's, we can, one or both, we can do that too. It sounds like we're all on the same page. I hope we're not just going in circles.
Is the easement a condition of?
Well, the interconnectivity to other parcels is something that's in the general plan. And so it's not mission critical to Starbucks to have these, but it's mission critical to the general plan we have.
It's,
But-
if I might say, jump in here for a second and say that, yes, interconnectivity with the other parcels is a good idea. I think it's, as a concept, that is a well-founded idea, and it's certainly goes and complies with the general plan concept of interconnectivity, and I sometimes you have and I don't know if, when it went through DRC, were there any comments from fire department for the function of some of the northern egress and the eastern egress? Was there a comment for fire truck maneuverability or any functional concern, if you will?
Yes, Commissioner Hubo, absolutely. That's one of the top priorities from the fire department, making sure that there's full access to the site. And as Danny was mentioning earlier, we also look at future development. When future development comes in, we want to make sure that we're able to have that future access as well. If you take a look at the sheet C3 of your packets, there's actually an access easement right now on the Starbucks property that traverses the site and ends up, it shows it here on the plan towards the northern property line. At this time, that easement will not be essentially the drive-through will now block that easement. So we worked with Starbucks at this time to be able to work that out and work this project site out for Starbucks. When Mr. Shahinian comes in at a later time to develop his site, his proposal, we would be more than happy to work with him, as well as Brian was alluding to see what we can do to be able to have that full access. And going back to your question, Mr. Huboy, the fire department will definitely be able to chime in to make sure that there's that proper accessibility for emergency purposes and so forth as well.
If you just take the site plan and focus in on it, in terms of site circulation, it's a well-designed site plan. I don't see how you do any better than what they've done here. And the reason I brought it up was I was just curious how that came about, because of the accesses with the adjoining property which are undeveloped. So it's just, but in the best of all worlds, you come up with a good site plan that has good interconnectivity. I don't see what else you can go forward with this unless you have a master plan the whole adjacent area.
Great, thank you. Is there any additional speakers on this item?
None Zoom, none in person.
Okay, so at this time, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:51, and then we can bring this back to for discussion with the commissioners.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we're headed is discussion, and we're still discussing that in the public hearing. So this is the opportunity for the commissioners to go ahead and continue on that discussion if you still have.
Right. Well, I just want to say another word. I didn't hear any words about the existing, what was, I guess once Jerry's is now Hooligans, right? The restaurant that is,
Right.
The existing restaurant was there. This probably goes as part of, I know there's a lot of people in the town probably were gonna be sorry to see it go. Because I know that there were people that on City Hall, our city manager used to go down there a lot. Yeah. But I've heard a lot of good words about that restaurant. It had the Art Deco sign, Jerry's. That's going to be sad to see that go too. But sometimes progress comes up with shiny new things that have more excitement. The outdoor seating, I think, is a definite plus. Danny, going back to the condition for the traffic mitigation, I didn't see it specifically addressed. I'll take on these traffic reports, we have traffic reports that go along with these applications.
Yes.
It's just a matter that this is automatically, it's part of the application.
Yes.
Okay. So that, I was a little concerned, because I know the 4th and San Benito, level E it's always wondering how we can mitigate that. Goes a little bit beyond my comprehension with traffic science and what they can do with these signalization, make it more, useful and functional, high tech, if you will, space aged, ideas how signalization can help mitigate the traffic concerns. But all in all, I think it's a good project. It's nice design. I think it shows that I think it'll work there. The architecture will look nice for going into the North Gateway. I think I've pretty much said all that I
Thank you,
need
Mr.
to say
Huboy.
regarding it.
Is there any other questions, comment from the other commissioners on Zoom?
No questions.
No questions.
This type of architecture is compatible with what's going on over there off of McRae now with that development over there, the Smashburger, that type of kind of cubist, modern look. Lack of vernacular for it. Well, I think it'll do nicely there in the North Gateway, and You know, I think you guys can work that out with Mr. Shinani in the future once he decides what he wants to do. And I think there's enough avenues, potential avenues in terms of site circulation, what he's gonna do with his property, that I think it could be worked out.
And from what I understand, those are access points that for future planning, they needs to be there, but as far as the easement to it is something that, the easement is not the problem as far as the property is contained within the site here. Is that what I'm understanding? Okay.
So I just want to say you guys did a good job working with the applicant, coming up with something that I think it'll be attractive. And with that being said, what is the PC resolution number on this?
Number 2020-12.
What was that number, Abraham?
PC Resolution 2020-12, sorry.
2020-12. And I'm glad we had this discussion because, you know, I think we needed to talk about this. So I appreciate the input from the staff and also the applicant and the adjacent property owner on that. There was some discussion on the condition number 25.
There was 25 and 72.
25 and 72?
Yeah.
What do you think on that? Seth, did you have any?
I think if they're able to work within the city for that, I would ask that they work within the guidelines of the city to accommodate for those items.
Okay.
Commissioner Munzer, I didn't hear what you just said. Can you repeat what you just said? I think you weren't speaking into your mic.
In regards to the conditions 25 and 72, that the applicant works within with the city within those guidelines is what was being discussed.
Right. Okay.
Number 25 and 72?
That's
Condition
correct.
Number 25, to work that out with the city.
Yes, so in regards to item number 1, what is the pleasure of the commission on this?
I'll make the motion to approve PC Resolution
2020-12.
2020-12, adopt site and architectural review number 2019-18 with the draft conditions that, and also specifically condition 25 and 72 to be work that out with the city. And on that was the right turn, I believe, and the city engineer.
There's
I'll make that motion for approval.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion on the item? If there is no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations on the item. Moving on to item number 2, site and architectural review, number 2020-7, conditional use permit, number 2020-1. Go ahead and have the staff report on that one.
Good evening, Commissioners. The applicant is requesting approval of site and architectural review 2020-7 for the conversion of an existing 2,315 square foot commercial office building into a duplex on the northwest corner of West and 4th Street. The applicant is also requesting approval of conditional use permit to approve a variation in the setback. The project is the project site is on an 8,262 square foot lot and is located in the Old Town Medium Zoning District. The Old Town Medium Zoning District allows for a density of 8 to 12 dwelling units per acre. The project is a proposed conversion to a duplex and is consistent with the density allowed. The existing building is a vacant commercial office building, and in accordance with section 1724-220, subsection E3, the commercial office building has not been utilized in over 6 months, and as such is permitted to convert into a residential use, which is consistent with the Old Town Medium Zoning District. The duplex will consist of 3 bedrooms, will consist of 2 units, which are 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Unit 1 is facing 4th Street and a total of 991 square feet, and Unit 2 is facing West Street and is a total of 1,266 square feet. The remaining square feet will be for a shared laundry room for a total of 2,315 square feet. There are no exterior changes proposed to the building. Any exterior changes would require a historical evaluation to be conducted due to the potentially historic nature of the home. The southern elevation has the entrance to Unit 1 and faces 4th Street and has tiled steps and decorative columns. The eastern elevation will have the entrance to Unit 2 and faces West Street. This elevation has tiled steps that leads to an enclosed patio and front door entrance. The northern elevation has an entrance to the shared laundry room, and the western elevation faces the rear of the property and the interior portion of the lot. The applicant is proposing to paint the exterior of the house in earth tone colors and will be consistent with the Old Town District Appeal. The exterior body is proposed to be Fitzgerald Smoke with a daisy white accent color for the trim. For landscaping, the project proposes removing the existing landscaping in the front yard to create a more suitable front yard space for residential use. The proposed landscape includes bark, ground cover, benches, and a paved walkway surrounding the building, and a 3-foot white picket fence with a gate at each walkway. The applicant will be removing the existing ivy and aggregate in the planter strips along the frontage of the property to be landscaped and will include street trees consistent with city requirements. The project requires 1,000 square feet of open space, and the applicant is proposing to provide at least 250 square feet of private open space at ground level for each unit. The applicants are proposing a total of 528 square feet of private space for both units and have a requirement to provide at least 472 square feet of common open space. The applicant is proposing 585 square feet of common open space on the northwest side of the property with a picnic area. The common open space will have a fence to separate from the parking area and serve as a safety barrier from vehicles. The applicant meets and exceeds the open space and minor amenity requirement. The applicant is also requesting approval of conditional use permit 2020-1 for variation in the front and rear yard setbacks. The front yard setback is approximately 13 feet and the rear yard setback is approximately 5 feet. The conditional use permit would approve the variation with the reason that the proposed project is revitalizing the vacant building and the proposed use is consistent with the zoning ordinance and the density requirement of the district. Additionally, the existing setbacks are constrained by the existing building on the lot. For parking, the applicant is proposing 4 parking spaces, which meets the requirement of 2 parking spaces for each 3-bedroom unit per section 1718.060. There is also a requirement per section 1718.060 that 10% of vehicle parking spaces be provided for bicycle parking, which is a total of one total bicycle parking space, and the applicant is meeting this requirement with the bike rack. With that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal, and make the following motion. Adopt a resolution approving site and architectural review 2020-7, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution, and adopt a resolution approving conditional use permit review 2020-1, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution. This concludes the presentation. Staff and the applicant are available for questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions for staff? If we have no questions for staff from any of the commissioners, we'll go ahead and open this up for a public hearing. at 7:05. Any speaker cards on this?
Doesn't appear we have any speaker cards in person or on Zoom.
And any comments from the applicant in regards to this?
The applicant is on Zoom. If Gurpreet or your husband would like to speak, or your father, let us know.
Yes, Gurpreet and Nephew here. We just want to take a moment and thank Abraham and Narelli for all of their assistance through this process. If there's any questions, we're more than happy to address them now. But we're just looking to take this vacant building that has been that hasn't been used actually and provide a low impact residential use to it and sort of revive the building.
Great, thank you. Any questions for the applicants?
I do have a question. On the historic evaluation, what is the stage of completion on that? When would you know if it is a historic building or not? Do you have any idea?
Commissioner Huboy, there is no exterior changes to the building, and so therefore a historic evaluation is not contemplated. What Areli was indicating is that if there is proposed, if there ever is, are any proposed exterior changes, then at that point we would require historic evaluation.
Yeah, just I know that you're asking for a variance on the setbacks, and I noticed that it was a commercial building, hasn't been used, now it's a residential. I see they're gonna put fire sprinklers in there, which is a code requirement for residential buildings, which is good. The only concern I have is that 5-foot setback to the property line. There may be, and may not, may be just fine. It depends on the unprotected openings on that wall. If it was a historic building, not having to do an exterior change, may have to do a little tweaking with the windows within the proximity of the 5 feet because of the, I think it's 705.8 table on the California Building Code on allowable openings based on distance to the property line. So they'll have to do a calculation on that.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Huboy. Areli, the rear yard setback, that's on the, what elevation is it considered? Is it the north elevation or the west elevation?
The west
elevation. It's the west elevation, Commissioner Huboy. It's the existing building of it. It's the existing building, and it's considered the west elevation because it faces, one of the units will face West Street.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I was misreading.
Yeah.
I was thinking, okay.
No, but I
it's the
see your
west
point.
elevation.
Yeah. Thanks for that clarification,
No,
Areli.
it may not be an issue, but they'll have to look at that wall, that
Yeah.
wall that's within 5 feet to the property line. And
thank
the
you.
amount of window area on that wall.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huboy. If there's no other questions for the applicant, I will go ahead and close the public hearing at this time and bring this item back for discussion with the commissioners. Any other discussion regarding this item, Mr. Huboy, or from any of the other
I'm glad to
commissioners?
see that, that they'll be getting some use out of that vacant building. And we do need these types of housing projects, duplexes and those types of projects. We have a need for it.
We need housing.
We do need a housing.
Bad.
I agree.
Chair Munzer, we do have Gurpreet's hand up again. You did close the public hearing. I'm not sure if you did close it though. But I do have it. I do see it that it's up again. I'm not sure if she wants to request to speak again, but you did close it. It's up to the desire of the commission.
We can open up the public hearing again at 7:10 if they were not finished. I may have cut them short. So if the applicant has any additional items or comments to address?
Gurpreet, can you hear us?
Yes, can you guys hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, so, we're just reiterating, yeah, the whole goal is to provide, low impact to the city. And as you guys know, we do need housing, so we're just sort of looking to revive the existing building. It's been sitting there, you probably saw the outside, it needs to be revamped up. Not only that, but we've actually been having an issue, of sort of a public nuisance. We've been having a lot of homeless people camping out there, so we're sort of just hoping to revive the thing, and sort of put it to use for our community and generate some housing.
Great, thank you. Any other? All right, well, thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. I will close this hearing back down. And if there is any other comments from the commissioners? If there's any comments from Commissioner Henderson or Stevens?
No comments from me. I just want to kind of just ditto the comments about needing this type of housing and.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Stevens. So what is the pleasure of the commission on this item?
What's the PC resolution number on this one, Abraham?
The PC resolution number on this one, Commissioner Huboy, would be 2020-13 for the site and architectural, and 2020-14 for the conditional use permit.
Okay, do we need the separate motions on this?
That is correct. Yes, please.
I'll make the motion that we adopt PC resolution 2020-13 and approve site and architectural review number 2020-7 with the draft findings and the conditions.
I think there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Is there a motion for the second portion?
I'll make, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make the motion that we adopt PC Resolution 2020-14 and approve conditional use permit number 2020-1 with the draft findings in the resolution and conditions.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second again.
Okay, a motion and a second. And any further discussion? There's no further discussion. All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you. Congratulations on the approval of that. Good luck with your project. And moving on to item number 3, tentative map number 2020-1, site and architectural review for 2020-9. If we can have the staff report on this item.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant is requesting approval of a tentative map and site and architectural review to subdivide a 1.7 acre site into 6 lots at 2001 Memorial Drive, located at the southern terminus of Memorial Drive, and also at the southern terminus of Hermosa Way in the R3 medium density residential zoning district of the city of Hollister. The project site is surrounded in 3 sites, west, south, and east, with the Twin Oaks development currently under construction, and to the north there are existing single-family residential units located adjacent to the north of this project. As part of the subdivision, the south terminus of Memorial Drive would extend and loop onto Hermosa Way. Lot 1 and Lot 2, as indicated on the tentative map and to the north of the new road, would have a duplex and 2 ADUs on each of the lots. And Lot 3, 4, 5, and 6 would be located on the southern side of the new road extension, and they would each have a triplex with 2 attached ADUs. Lot 1 would consist of 7,928 square feet. Lot 2 would consist of 7,955 square feet. Lot 3, 10,921 square feet. Lot 4, 11,374. Lot 5, 11,008. And Lot 6, 11,130 square feet. Each duplex and triplex would each have 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And each ADU would consist of 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom. There is a government code law that requires that the ADU is no bigger or no larger than 50% of the size of the main unit that it is attached to, and all 12 ADU units that are being proposed meet that requirement. And that's for the creation of variation of homes, as it does with this proposal. The ADUs being less than 50% of the size of the unit that it's, the multifamily unit that it is attached to. As mentioned, the development proposes to loop Memorial Drive east to Hermosa Way. The new road would have a 60-foot wide dedication with two 20-foot wide road lanes. Per table 17.18-1 of section 1718.060 of the Hollister Municipal Code, multifamily housing requires 2 parking spaces for each unit that has 3 bedrooms or more. Also, per section 65852.2DX of the California Government Code, each parking requirements for accessory dwelling unit shall not exceed 1 parking space per accessory dwelling unit or per bedroom, whichever is less. Lots 1 and 2 on the north side of the new road extension have a duplex building with 3 bedrooms on each unit, plus 2 ADUs, which require a total of 6 parking spaces on each of Lot 1 and each of Lot 2, and 6 parking spaces are proposed on each of Lot 1 and each of Lot 2. The proposed parking for Lots 1 and 2 is consistent with the Hollister Municipal Code for parking requirements, off-street parking. Lots 3, 4, 5, and 6 would each have a triplex building with 3 bedrooms on each unit, plus 2 ADUs with 1 bedroom. Therefore, lots 3, 4, 5, and 6 would each require 8 parking spaces, and each of those lots are proposing 8 parking spaces on the site. Bicycle parking spaces are depicted on the site plan on near lot number 5 on the screen. A trash enclosure would be located north of the new road between lots 1 and lots 2 to serve those units, and another trash enclosure would be located on the northern side of lot 3 to serve lots 3, 4, 5, and 6. Lighting for the parking area south of the new road extension would consist of a light post between lots 3 and 4. There would be another light post on the northern side of lot 5, another light post on the on the southern side of northern side of lot 5, and then another light post on the southern side of lot 6. There will be multiple light posts along the new street addition as well, along with multiple wall mount lighting on the facade of each of the buildings. However, we still want to make sure that we review the actual lighting plan at the Development Services Department and get approval by the Development Services Department and also by the Police Department. So there's a condition in there that wants to see a little bit more detail when it comes to that by both the Development Services and Police Department. A condition of approval also requires reciprocal access and parking agreements for lots 3 through 6. We want to make sure that even though there's going to be separate lots, that vehicles are going to be able to access all the different lots as they're going northbound. And we would require that to be finalized prior to final map, or prior to issuance of the first building permit, whichever occurs first. Also, we would require there is a condition of approval that requires continuous maintenance and management of the multifamily buildings to include but not be limited to paved surfaces, utilities, open space areas, such as in the form of codes, covenants, and restrictions, the CCNRs that are referred to, or in the form of a rental contract. And that should be recorded on each lot as well. The front south elevations of the proposed duplexes with the attached ADUs consist of mostly horizontal siding with some stucco as it transitions to the second story and along the bottom portion of each garage. The front of each duplex unit would consist of one entry door, one garage door, one slider, and one slider window on the second floor of each of the units, each with an awning. The front elevation of each of the ADUs consists of horizontal siding with one door and one window. There will be 7 wall mount lights proposed throughout the front elevation of the duplex, of each of the duplex buildings. The front elevations of the proposed triplex buildings with the attached ADUs consist of stucco exterior on the first floor and horizontal siding on the second floor. The first floor of the triplex consists of 4 double hung windows, and the second floor consists of 4 slider rectangular windows. The front elevation of each of the ADUs consists of a stucco exterior with 1 door and 1 rectangular window. There is an existing single-family residential unit on the property that is proposed to be demolished. A condition of approval requires that the property owner provide the proper noticing requirement by state law to the tenant prior to the removal of the existing unit. There are also various oak trees on the site that shall remain on the site. A condition of approval requires that the oak trees be protected at all times during construction. The private open space requirements consist of a minimum of 250 square feet with minimum dimensions of 10 feet if provided at ground level, or 64 square feet minimum if provided in the form of a balcony. There are no balconies proposed. They're all going to be private ground level open space requirements. Each multifamily residential unit would have between 500 and 651 square feet of private open space. In addition, the applicant will provide a usable common open space picnic area with a picnic table at the south end of the site between lots 4 and 5. There will be various trees, shrubs, and ground covers, including 19 deciduous trees, crepe myrtles, 2 evergreen trees, and 5 street trees per city standard, along with various shrubs and a ground cover for a total of 26 trees, various shrubs, and ground covers throughout the project site. In closing, the multifamily residential units proposed for this development are highly desired in the city of Hollister, as it provides for much needed housing, rental market rate housing in the community. Since 2015, as indicated in the staff report, there have been only 13 multifamily market rate units built in Hollister. There have actually been a little bit more affordable housing units, which is also good and is also needed, including 49 affordable housing units on Line Street that the commission approved and are now constructed and are occupied, and including 80 affordable housing units along 4th Street west of Miller. Each of those projects are considered special needs housing. The 49 units along Line Street is for Chispa Senior Housing Development, and the 80 units along 4th and Miller are farm worker housing, which is great. However, market rate units are highly desirable in the city as well. The market rate duplex and triplexes and ADUs proposed with this development would offer some very much needed market rate rental housing in the community. Before I read the recommendation, I would like to bring your attention into the Site and Architectural Resolution, condition number 19 of the Site and Architectural Resolution on page 6 of 14. Talks about a requirement for the backflow prevention. And so all we want to add to that is that the requirements are met per City of Hollister requirements. The condition reads, the owner shall install a backflow prevention device on the existing sewer lateral between the building and the city's sanitary sewer main. The device shall be maintained and operated by the owners and shall periodically tested by the owners to ensure the device is working properly. we want to make sure that language is added per City of Hollister requirements. And also, on the tentative map, conditions number 31 and 32, page 9 of 16. Condition number 31 talks about a requirement of a 6 feet PUE and a 10-foot tree planting and maintenance easement. And condition number 32 requires a 10-foot public utility easement. So all we want to do is remove condition number 31, keep condition number 32, which indicates that 10-foot public utility easement, which would serve both conditions. So once again, just want to close by reiterating that the market rate duplexes, triplexes, and ADUs proposed with this development will offer some very much needed market rate rental housing in the community. And with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal, and make the following motion. Number 1, adopt a resolution approving tentative map number 2020-1, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution. And number 2, adopt a resolution approving site and architectural review number 2020-9, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution. Thank you. Are there any questions for staff?
I'm sorry, Abraham, you said remove condition 31?
Remove condition 31. That's correct.
I just misheard you, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff regarding this item? Any of the commissioners on Zoom, if you have questions? If we have no questions at this time, I'd like to go and open it up for the public hearing.
Do we have anyone on Zoom, Abraham?
Is it okay? Yeah. We do have Cliff Cardoza on Zoom.
May we please start with Zoom first, and we'll go to... No,
That's
yes.
easy.
Hello?
Good evening, Cliff.
Hello?
Can you hear us, Cliff?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Cliff. Thank you. Thank you. Proceed, please.
Can I proceed?
Yes, you may. Thank you.
Hollister Planning Commission, thank you for enabling me to utilize this technology that I'm not accustomed to. My name is Clifford A. Cardoza with my wife Claudia P. Cardoza, are residents and owners of a single-family dwelling at 1921 Hermosa Way in Hollister. This residence has been our family home for 54 years, since June 1st, 1966. What we are now responding to today is the tentative map and site and architectural identified as a major subdivision, Anati Landing, that is proposed to be constructed on a parcel of property of 1.7 acres. Basically, this would be to the southwest of both streets of Hermosa Way and Memorial Drive. From the general description of the present and future developed and undeveloped properties, the proposed site for the construction of the 2 duplexes plus 4
Mr. Clifford, thank you for taking the time to call in and voice your concerns in regards to this project. Any other speakers on this item?
No Zoom. No Zoom. We do have multiple people here in the audience that would like to speak. First would be Mr. Marty Miller. Yes, please.
Excuse me, could you bring up the landscape plan again? Thank you. My name is Marty Miller. I am the developer for the Twin Oaks project next door. And in looking over the plans, the one concern that we have is that the project proposes 2-story dwelling units with windows on the second floor looking down on our project, which is all 1 story. And all the bedrooms, all the master bedrooms, and all the family rooms are in the rear of the house. And so without any screening at all, there's no privacy. There's no privacy whatsoever. And so we would suggest or propose that the applicant put up some landscape screening that would stay green all year long and adequately grow to a reasonable height within a reasonable period of time, which generally is around 2 years. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Miller. Any other
Next speaker, yes, next speaker is Cole Cooper.
My name's Co Cooper. I've been a resident of San Bernardino County for the last 47 years. And I have worked with this project to get it this far. And as an infill project that would provide this kind of housing, I just want to support or express my support for it, that I can't see a better use of this parcel than what's been proposed here. It's going to provide some housing. The parking issue that was brought up, we've met with our city engineer. We've made sure that we've crossed our T's, dotted the I's, that the density per square foot has been met, and I just think it's a much needed project, and I just wanted to say that as a resident for almost 50 years here. This is something that, for an infill, that I think is appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Final speaker is Ann Hall.
Good evening, I'm Ann Hall with San Benito Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, and I would just like to, one, state that I believe the applicant has worked with the city staff to look at the different options available on this site and how we could meet what the city needs in keeping with the zoning, in keeping with the changes from the state having to do with ADUs, and in keeping, it's been a little bit of a back and forth over the past year, and we appreciate the help from staff to kind of zero in and come up with this project that I think does achieve all the guidelines that you were looking for. I'd like to address some of the concerns that came up. We are providing all the required parking on site. We're even for the ADUs, so I believe that some of the concern about parking on the street, we've done what we can under the project to provide all the parking we need on the site, so that should not be an issue. This project will connect Hermosa and Memorial Drives. Both of those right now are a dead end without a cul-de-sac. The need for the connection has been identified for a while. In fact, Silver Oaks started those extensions as part of their project, and this project completes it the connection through the King property, which will allow for better connectivity and fire response. Let's see, there are two-story portions to this project. The ADUs are one story. The two-story portion, in most cases, is 15 to 20 feet away from the property line. However, the applicant has no issue with providing landscaping screening along the property line. That's understandable, so we don't have an issue doing that. The landscape plan that we've submitted generally address the front yard landscaping, because that's all the city's usually controlling. The backyard landscaping is something the landlord, that goes on during the construction of the housing, but we don't have an issue with that requirement. And I think that was all the questions that came up. Do you have any questions for me?
Do we have any questions for the applicant from the commissioners on Zoom? All right, I don't think we have any additional questions. Thank you, Ms. Hall.
No more speakers.
No more speakers. All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring this item back to the commissioners for discussion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
If I may, can you go back to the elevations on the triplex? Yeah, that one there. Okay. You know, I know a lot of work has gone into this. I really appreciate it. There's quite a bit of labor that's involved here. You have the rear elevation at the bottom of the sheet that has no window trim. It's just the bare aluminum trim without any trim there. And then the upper elevation does have trim. I'm just thinking that it'd be more consistent to have trim on the lower elevation to be consistent with the other elevations. I don't know why the trim was left out. Was there any reason for that?
That's how it was proposed, Commissioner Huboy. But yeah, this is the time we can require
I don't know how
that.
the other commissioners feel about that. The rear elevation, I know that the lot, let's see, lot 4, you've got that wall that's facing west without any shading elements there. It's going to get a lot of heat coming in there. And I'm just thinking that two ideas I have is it's not a major thing, it's just a little tweaking on the elevations.
Sure.
To add shading elements for the rear elevation that's facing south to minimize the heating loads for the building. And also going back to let's go back to the duplex elevation. The one on the lower left, I think that to mitigate that second story, the bulk of that second story, I could just see the brow just carrying across, the overhang just going all the way across would mitigate that. It would enhance that elevation. I don't think these things that I'm suggesting are relatively minor. That can be worked out administratively.
Sure.
The third thing is that on the floor plans, and I have to say this, I know we don't normally get into this level of detail, but as an architect, I know that when you have any over 3 units,
yes,
it's called a covered multifamily building. So you're going to have some accessibility tweaking you're going to have one of those units will have to have a accessible route into the lower level there, and the powder room is going to have to be tweaked for accessibility reasons. I think that sometimes this can be a bit of a significant task where and I know I worked on an apartment project where I had to actually bump a wall out. But I think in this situation that we're looking at the floor plans, that are gonna have some massaging to be done for accessibility reasons down the line there. I think it's minor enough. I can look at it. I don't see anything other than moving a wall here and there
Very well.
to accommodate that. So I think, but I would feel remiss if I didn't mention that.
We
because,
appreciate that.
you know, that's my job. And when we look at floor plans as part of the exhibit, we're approving it, knowing that there's gonna be some changes down the line. I think the changes will be minor enough to go ahead and work with, the applicant can work with staff on that. But I would like to, and I agree with Mr. Miller's comments about the landscape screening. I know when Carol Lenore was on the Planning Commission, she was very, very concerned about privacy issues. And I learned a lot from Carol Lenore, believe me.
Yeah, me too.
So I totally agree with that. I think that, you know, you can add some, and even on those southern elevations, deciduous trees are really good for those windows that are facing west.
Mm-hmm.
They can provide the shading during the hot summer days, and then in the wintertime, when you go ahead and let that light into the
To the window?
passive light into the structures that would, you want that winter solar heat gain to minimize your heating loads.
Very well.
So I think if, those are my suggestions. Again, I respectfully say that because I know a lot of work went into this.
Can we,
But I think we can just kind of massage a little bit.
can we go back to that first elevation that Mr. Huboy was speaking of? So the top one is the trim that you're talking about, correct?
Yeah.
And then the bottom one is without the trim?
Right.
And that's the rear of the property? The back of the house?
Yes. What is your thought? What are your thoughts on that?
I think I misunderstood. I thought you were speaking of, or thinking those were two different elevations. One with trim and one without trim. And I was just clarifying that one's the front of the house and one's the back of the house.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. I think the trim should be carried all the way through. What are your
That's what I
thoughts?
was just clarifying, is that what you were
Yes.
commenting? Okay.
I'm curious what you think.
I think the trim on the street side is definitely important. I don't have really concern either way on the back of it.
What about my fellow commissioners on my comments on the elevations? What are their thoughts?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to hear the discussion that you're having. The audio quality is really bad from the chamber, but yeah, I don't have with elevations.
My comment, Kevin, was to carry the trim all the way throughout on all elevations. The window trim, I think, would be more consistent application of that embellishment for the windows.
Yeah, I couldn't get that. I couldn't understand much of that. So.
Yeah, I'm having the same issues as Commissioner Henderson. It is difficult. I mean, I think I kind of get the gist of the comment, Commissioner Boy, and I agree in general. If I'm understanding, it's just to add more shading to address the issue of the heat. Is that right?
Yes, that was the other comment I had. Roxanne, was that?
David,
I'm sorry.
Can make sure to talk in the microphone. That
Okay.
might be part of it.
I'm sorry. I was commenting on the rear elevation, that rear elevation for the triplex on lot 1 is facing west without any shading. Now you can have, we are gonna get some improvements to the landscape plan for privacy reasons. We can add that for that lot 1 where those units are facing west, because you're gonna get a lot of late afternoon heat without any shading in those windows and sliding glass doors. Can you hear me?
Yes, we were able to hear you.
These are suggestions. I'm not saying that should be etched in stone, but I'm saying that I think that would improve the elevation if they had window trim carry that window trim on the other elevations, make it consistent, and then add a shading element such as a window with some knee braces to go to provide the shading from afternoon sun for that wall that faces west. That was my suggestion. I think you'll find that when you look at your heating bill and your cooling bill, you'll appreciate that comment.
Thank you, Mr. Huboy.
Okay.
Any other comments from the commissioners?
I have no comments.
I'm going to have to say that what Mr. Miller had brought up is something that I think is important, is to put some type of green belt just for the privacy between the two neighbors. One's being a two-story and the other one's single stories behind the project. So I think that's something that's important.
I agree with that.
If there's no other discussion from the commissioners, what is the pleasure of the commission on the item?
I'll go ahead and start with the tentative map, which is PC resolution number.
That is PC resolution number 12, 13, 15, 2020-15.
2020-15. I'll make the motion to approve tentative map 2020-15. Excuse me, the PC resolution 2020-15, and adopt tentative map number 2020-1 with the draft findings and the conditions in the resolution.
Commissioner Huboy, if I may.
Oh, with the removing condition number 31.
I actually just spoke to Danny right now, and if it's okay, we would like to keep condition 31, but just removing the 6-foot PUE of condition number 31.
Okay, with the changes in condition number 31, and I think there was a condition number 19, but isn't that the site and architectural?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and second. Discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, congratulations on the first portion of it. What's
And
the pleasure?
then the second motion I'll make is for PC resolution 2020, let me guess, -16?
That's correct.
Okay. And adopt site and architectural review number 2020-9 with the change of condition number 19 to state per city with, you're talking about the pressure, the backflow.
Correct.
Per city of Hollister. And then I also want to, I'm just going to say this, is that I would like for staff to work with the applicant on just some of these minor improvements to the elevations. And then also include some landscape revisions to provide sufficient landscape screening for privacy reasons for the 2-story bedroom windows that are overlooking the single-story adjacent properties.
Very well.
Okay.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Congratulations on
Congratulations.
the project. Thank you.
Chairman, before we move on, I wanted to comment on the audio situation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I just wanted to just give feedback to the staff and maybe IT about the audio situation. It's really hard to understand a lot of what's being said from the dais. We can, I can, when someone is speaking from the table in the middle there, that's probably the most clear audio that we hear. When Swanson speaks, that's pretty clear. I just wanted to kind of give feedback. I'm not sure how the audio is being sent to the Zoom meeting. Maybe it's just a microphone in the middle of the room there. There's a lot of multipath. You know, it's like must be picking audio from several speakers in the room, and that's why it's kind of echoey. The echo in it, it's so echoey, it's really hard to understand a lot of it. That's all. I wanted to make that comment.
This is Paul from IT. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can. It sounds okay. It's not great, but I can hear you.
Yeah, because I'm speaking directly into the microphone, and you know, the microphones we have here on the dais, they're not meant to project over Zoom, so we have one microphone in the middle of the room to capture what is coming over the speakers, and we're, you know, that's pretty much the best we can do, considering that council chambers isn't meant to be remote. It's meant for every, you know, all the audio and video to be done here in the room. So we're doing the best that we can. My suggestion is those who are on the dais speak directly and loud into the microphone. We can't put the microphones too loud. They'll feed back here in the chambers. So my suggestion is just to project a little bit more into the microphones at the dais, you know, a little bit louder so that people can hear. I'm monitoring the Zoom on the YouTube, and I can hear everything that's going on. I do understand that there's some that's a little bit more muffled than others, but I am able to hear actual conversation. So I apologize for you know, to everyone that's on the Zoom, but you know, there's only so much we can do here. Great, thank you.
I was remiss too. I started out with my mask, and I was having trouble with people hearing me. And then, normally I speak closer to the mic than I was earlier this evening. I apologize for that.
We will do everything that we can on our part to make sure we're speaking clearly into the mic for you, Mr. Anderson, and as well as Stevens.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, item number 4, site and architectural review, number 2020-11. Staff report.
Thank you. Good evening. This item is for Site and Architectural Review 2020-11 for a master sign program. The applicant is requesting approval of this master sign program to allow for the construction and placement of a freestanding pole sign located at the northwest corner of the property at 710 San Benito Street. This sign is intended to contain the fuel prices and other required information for the existing Chevron gas station that just went in. And this sign will replace an existing pole sign that's in the same location. The replacement pole is approximately, it's going to have approximately 10 square feet less of new signage. It's about 53.5 square feet. And the current pole sign with its various signage has about 64 square feet of signage currently. The new pole will be 18 feet in height, and the current pole that will be replaced is 25 feet in height. So it will be a shorter sign with less square footage of overall signage. The existing site is paved with only a small semi-triangular area that is open to allow for the placement of this pole sign and the replacement of the pole sign. However, replacement of a sign in this location doesn't comply with setbacks required for the freestanding signs in our code. But this is the only location available on the property for a freestanding sign. And because it's a gas station, there are requirements separate from our code about signage and pricing requirements and things like that. So they do need to have those prices available on their site. So they're proposing to replace in an existing location. This sign is also not in compliance with requirements from section 1720.050, requiring that freestanding signs be a low-scale monument type sign as opposed to a pole sign, which is being proposed. There are a few reasons for this. One is potential site hazard distances or issues for vehicles. This is located at the corner of 7th and San Benito, and it is right on the corner, as you can see, within that existing triangle. So potentially having a low-scale monument sign that meets the requirements of the size and lighting and things like that for a gas station sign could be an issue, as well as it physically would not fit. A monument sign would not fit in this tiny triangle that's available, and it would be even closer to the streets than is being proposed, so an even lesser setback than a pole would be. So for these reasons, the master sign program would allow exceptions to this setback and the monument type requirements for the installation of this sign. And in accordance with section 1720.040H1, the Planning Commission may allow exceptions to regulations in the sign code with the master sign program. The exceptions being proposed would allow this sign to be integrated in the site as it exists today. The square footage of signage permitted in the downtown mixed use is 1 square foot of signage per linear foot of frontage. And this property has about 195 linear feet of frontage. And with the freestanding sign proposed at about 53 square feet of sign, and then 3 additional signs that are in existence on the current chevron canopy, there is a total of about 98 square feet of signage on the site, which is well within the requirements, with the 195 being the maximum allowed. There is a condition of approval that prior to issuance of the building permit for the freestanding pole sign, that the property owner bring the window signage on the building that exists into conformance. There's more than 25% of windows covered on that shop, the commercial shop. And so that's a requirement of this project, to bring the building into conformance with the code. And then there's also another condition on the master sign program regarding landscaping. All of our freestanding signs are required to be located in a landscaped area. It's a very small area, so it's staff is going to work with the applicant on whether or not it needs to go through our water efficiency landscape ordinance. If it's subject to those requirements, it's maybe 30 square feet of area, if that. But we'll be working with them to make sure that there's some kind of landscaping or something in that area. I have provided the specific 2 code sections that are being requested for exceptions, but I won't read them for you. But C4B, the main part, this is one about the setback. It's supposed to be 10 feet. Again, we're much closer than that. And then C4M from 1720.050, this is the section that requires a low-scale monument type sign. With that, that'll conclude my presentation, and staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive the oral and written testimony regarding the proposal, and make a motion to adopt a resolution approving Site and Architectural Review 2020-11 for a master sign program, subject to findings and conditions in our draft resolution. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Eva. Do we have any questions for staff?
No
If we don't,
questions, Mr. Chair.
if we don't have any questions, I'd like to go ahead and open this up for a public hearing. At It's at 8:02. Any speakers on this item?
Yeah, it doesn't appear we have any speakers in person or on Zoom.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Bring this back to the commissioners, and any items to discuss in regards to this?
I just want to thank you, Eva, and guys working with the property owner there. I think that's going to be a remarkable improvement, and also with the condition of the window coming into compliance also, I think it's going to really help beautify that site.
I would have to agree. Yeah. All right, if there's no other discussion, what's the pleasure of the commission on this item?
How come everyone's looking at me? Okay, I'll go ahead and make the motion. It was, you mentioned it was PC Resolution
It'll be dash 2017.
2017, and adopt site and architectural review number 2020-11, including the revisions to the master sign program regarding the setbacks and the variances that you were outlining there.
And I'll just clarify that those are part of the master sign program, so it doesn't require any revisions to the actual.
Okay, and so so my motion is to adopt site and architectural review number 2020-11 with the findings in the draft resolution.
Great, thank you. The motion, is there a second? I'll make the second on this item. We have a motion and a second, and further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Congratulations to the applicant on that for the approval. Moving on to new business.
There are no new business, Chairman Munzer?
Is there any old business?
No old business at this time, Chairman Munzer.
Is there any planning department reports?
Just want to thank Commissioner Carrie Johnson for all her service as a District 2 Planning Commissioner. She has indicated that is no longer going to be serving the commission. We're going to miss her a lot. Thank her for her help. Staff is going to be working with District City Council member Roland Resendez, District number 2, to hopefully have somebody on board fairly soon, and we will notify the commission of that. But we want to thank Commissioner Carrie Johnson for all her service.
Yeah, that was, thank you.
Sure.
And thank you to Commissioner Johnson as well for her time and service to the community. Is there any planning commission reports?
Well, I guess I would be remiss if I didn't say that on June 4th, I believe, we had our kickoff meeting for the general plan update, and I thought it went very well. And I'm looking forward. I know you've had some public visioning workshops that the GPAC committee was not required to attend, but I've been reading all the public comments, and it looks like we've got some good input there. I'll be ready to go for our next GPAC 2, but with the time and date that we haven't finalized that yet, but I'm looking forward to getting Abraham's email.
Absolutely.
And carrying it on from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm excited about it.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All
And
right.
I also want to thank Carrie Johnson too. I'm going to miss her. She was fun to have on board, and she did a great job.
Yeah. Okay, with that, we'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
You guys have a great evening.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good
Good
night,
night.
Roxanne. Good night, Kevin.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.